Good morning. You're watching I-24 News here with the hour's headlines. Last night's GOP Republican debate was overshadowed by Donald Trump's absence, with host Megyn Kelly taking the stage and addressing the, quote, elephant not in the room. The Republican frontrunner withdrew after Fox News refused to drop Kelly, whom Trump accused of being biased. Texas Senator Ted Cruz and former Florida Governor Jeb Bush seized the opportunity to poke fun at the billionaire businessman just days before Iowa voters pick their presidential nominee. ABC News has the details.
Let's address the elephant not in the room tonight.
A Republican showdown like no other in Iowa.
I kind of miss Donald Trump.
I have not insulted Donald personally, and I don't intend to.
Frontrunner Donald Trump boycotting the Fox News debate.
Has anyone seen Trump? Where's Trump?
And instead holding his own rally for veterans at the exact same time.
We raised over $5 million in one day. Donald Trump gave $1 million, okay?
Trump clearly still upset over his feud with co-moderator Megyn Kelly.
I'm not going to do the debate out of respect for myself.
Across town, Trump's closest competitor in Iowa, Ted Cruz, moved front and center on the debate stage.
And everyone on this stage is stupid, fat, and ugly. And Ben, you're a terrible surgeon. Now that we've gotten the Donald Trump portion out of the way.
Cruz also came under attack as a flip-flopper on amnesty for illegal immigrants.
I was for legalization. So was Ted, but now he says it wasn't so. That's not true.
We led the fight against amnesty.
The truth is, Ted, throughout this campaign, you've been willing to say or do anything in order to get votes.
Stop the Washington Bull and let's get things done.
Meanwhile, the FBI released a video showing an Oregon occupier reach for his jacket pocket before being shot dead by law enforcement after speeding away from a traffic stop. Authorities said 54-year-old Robert Lavoy Finnegan, a rancher from Arizona, who acted as a spokesman for the occupiers at the Malheur National Wildfire Refuge, was armed when stopped by police and killed Tuesday afternoon.
I'd like to confirm that as of this morning, one additional person has left the refuge through the checkpoints. We believe there are 4 people who still occupy the refuge at this time. Since the establishment of the checkpoints, 9 people have left the refuge. Of those 9 people, 6 have been released and 3 have been arrested by the FBI.
American and British intelligence secretly tapped into live video feeds from Israeli drones and fighter jets monitoring Israeli military operations and technology. This according to a report released this morning by the Intercept news site. Under a classified program codenamed Anarchist, the UK systematically tapped into Israeli drones from Cyprus. Files were provided by former NSA contractor Edward Snowden. According to the report, Anarchist focused mainly on Israel, but also gathered intelligence on Hezbollah's drone program and Iranian drone operations from Syria. Earlier, we were joined by Amir Oren, senior defense analyst for Haaretz.
Especially when Israel has threatened to attack Iran, to launch an airstrike, it only stands to reason that the United States, along with Britain, which historically has been based in Cyprus, would try to keep some surveillance on the Israeli intentions and capabilities. Intelligence services know that they have a very strange coexistence. On one level, they could cooperate as brotherly partners. And on another level, they keep looking at each other suspiciously, collecting information on each other. And, of course, they are going to feed their respective national leadership with all the data necessary to reach decisions.
And moving to the Syrian crisis, Saudi-backed opposition said they won't attend Geneva peace talks without an aid guarantee. Their absence threatens to derail the biggest diplomatic push yet to resolve the nearly 5-year-old civil war, which has killed more than 260,000 people and forced millions from their homes. UN envoy Staffan de Mistura addressed the Syrian people.
5 years of this conflict have been too much. The horror is in the front of everyone's eyes. You must know also that we count on you to raise your voice, to say halas is enough, to say to everyone who is actually coming from Syria and from abroad to this conference that they are expectations on them to make sure that their vision, their capacity of compromise and discussion for reaching a peaceful solution in Syria is now, and they need to produce that. You have seen enough conferences, 2 of them already taking place. This one cannot fail.
And meanwhile, Germany has unveiled plans to add Algeria, Morocco, and Tunisia to its list of safe countries as it tries to curb the growing numbers of migrants arriving at its shores. While Morocco has responded positively, the coalition proposal still needs approval from the government and parliament. Meanwhile, EU Foreign Policy Chief Federica Mogherini called on European countries to work together.
Either we have common responses, as Germany now says very well, both to the migration or refugee crisis or to terrorism. Either we do this together or none of us is able to do this. So for the first time in our integration history, we have the necessity of Europe. And the paradox is that in the moment when we see the necessity, we are putting this into question, which is potentially a tendency to suicide. Because we do have the machine, but we don't start the engine. That is our problem today.
Jason Rezaian, the Washington Post journalist who was imprisoned in Iran for 545 days, publicly thanked those who helped in his release efforts. Accused of espionage, Rezaian was freed this month in a prisoner swap that coincided with the lifting of sanctions on Iran in accordance with curbing Tehran's nuclear program.
For much of the 18 months I was in prison, my Iranian interrogators told me that the Washington Post did not exist, that no one knew of my plight, and that the United States government would not lift a finger for my release. Today I'm here in this room with the very people who helped prove the Iranians wrong in so many ways. Each day since my release, I learned more about the efforts to gain our freedom, which began the moment Yegi and I were taken from our home, and continue on in support of our reintroduction into the world. There's so many people to thank.
And in the latest financial news, in a surprise move, the Bank of Japan has introduced a negative interest rate of minus 0.1%, meaning banks will now be charged by the central bank for some deposits. Japan hopes this move will act as a disincentive for banks to save and encourage lending to counter the economic slump the country faces. The Eurozone also has negative interest rates, but this is a first for Japan, the world's 3rd largest economy. And in health news, fears grow that Zika could affect the Olympic Games in Rio, with the International Olympic Committee expected to issue guidelines this week aimed at protecting athletes and visitors of the game. The World Health Organization warned that the disease linked to birth defects in thousands of babies was spreading explosively and could affect as many as 4 million people in the Americas. Several countries are already warning their athletes about the virus. And moving back to the United States in sports news, Santa Clara, California begins preparation for the 50th anniversary Super Bowl game. The Denver Broncos and the Carolina Panthers will face off on Sunday, February 7th in the most-watched sporting event in the United States. Prime seats for this year's Super Bowl, if you were wondering, will go for $30,000 US, and with cheaper high-level seats going for $800. Rates for 30 seconds of advertising time during the game are estimated at approximately $5 million apiece. And that's all the time we have. Thank you for watching.